precedence to their desires over the desire of Allah? How can their fear be turned to peace then? How can they have this divine bounty granted to them? Because Allah the Almighty turns the fear of the believers into peace. Allah removes the worldly fears from their hearts and gives them the power and strength to face all trials and tribulations, so that the Khalifa can give that assurance and that peace. So can the decrees of Allah be beaten by the efforts of the people, efforts of human beings? Slogans are being raised in Qadian and the world over. Slogans being raised in Qadian are resounding the world over today. Huzur continues, in this verse, Allah the Almighty also admonishes that Allah the Almighty will remove your fear and grant you peace. Allah the Almighty says in this verse and gives the assurance that Allah will remove your fears and turns them into peace. Allah will guide the Khalifa of the time, and his attention will be drawn to the worship of Allah, and he will remove all idols which stand in the way of the worship of Allah, and the favors of Allah will grant that strength. If ever a Khalifa makes a slip, Allah the Almighty will turn his attention towards the rightly guided path, to the Kaaba, and Allah will bring about correct results, right results. But the members of the community will also have to focus on worship of Allah and to refrain from even the slightest areas of shirk, associating partners with Allah, and forever expressing their gratitude to Allah, remain worshipful servants of Allah the Almighty. Slogans are being raised in Qadian, in Rabwa, in London, and they are resounding the world over. Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Huzur continues that the members of the Jamaat should also learn to appreciate the bounties of Allah and be worshipful servants of Allah. And when that happens, then you can be carefree that Allah will be in front of them, Allah will be behind them, Allah will be on their right and Allah will be on their left, and there is no one who can harm them. We are receiving live scenes from Qadian, Darul Aman, the hamlet of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, and we are also receiving scenes live from Rabwa, Pakistan, Huzur continues, this state we saw upon the community of the promised Messiah alayhi salam when a calamity was struck which shook every heart of every Ahmadi. Huzur says, like I had said, the enemies were beating the drums of joy after the demise of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, that now this community is going to break up, and the ridiculous expressions of the enemies and the opponents, I want to present some of them here so that the youngsters and the newcomers can see that how they did that. Pir Jamaat Ali Shah's followers, they made a propaganda that a large number of people are leaving Ahmadiyyat and they are entering their sect, and they made this boastful claim. Even today, the poor Maulvis who are our opponents, they make these kind of claims and boasts, but this is their boastful desire which was never fulfilled before and which will never be fulfilled in the future. Today, these poor people, sometimes they lose their senses with grief, and on one side they say we have finished Ahmadiyyat, and on the other side they say, pressurizing the Islamic governments, that they should stop the onslaught of Ahmadiyya, otherwise they are going to misguide the whole ummah. Well, these are their expressions. After the demise of the promised Messiah alayhi salam, they tried every effort. Their venom, the way they spread it, one example was Maulvi Sanaullah. He wrote that Mirza, mentioning the promised Messiah alayhi salam, he said that all his books, not in the ocean, they should be thrown into a kiln, into an oven, so that in any history book his name is not mentioned ever. Khwaja Hassan Nizami, who apparently was a serious man, slogans are being raised.
Hadhrat Khalifatul Massih
Slogans were being raised. Huzur says, Khwaja Hassan Nizami, who apparently was a self-absorbed man, he advised the Ahmadis that the claim of Hazrat Mirza Sahib of being the Messiah, the Ahmadis should reject that. Otherwise, there is a fear that a person who was so organized and he was so wise, in his absence, now their community will not be able to withstand the onslaught of the enemies. So, addressing the Jamaat with great respect and mentioning the promised Messiah ﷺ with respect, he says the Jamaat will not be able to withstand the onslaught of the enemies, so they should give up their faith. So that was the condition, that was the situation.